Because these are also patients of in our medical school, in our teaching hospital, we actually know from our colleagues in the Faculty of Medicine which of these subjects are normal and which of these subjects suffer from perhaps early cognitive impairment. So the point is that we want to be able to perform early detection of Alzheimer's based on the circadian rhythm. And the results using attention-based deep learning for time series classification actually shows that this is a very promising approach. So my hope is that we can collect not only just physical activity data, but hopefully also speech activity data for detection of early cognitive impairment so that intervention strategies can be introduced earlier rather than too late. So that was a rather fast presentation, a high speaking rate. So I'm actually now on my last slide. So here I just want to share with you the optimist in me. I feel that we're now at the golden age of speech research. And as speech researchers, I think our training actually empowers us to leverage our ability to understand this very magical signal for human communication. We can leverage on our ability to devise powerful algorithms and architectures, our availability of powerful computing and massive storage resources, and leverage our insights in various application contexts, especially through collaborations, to devise fit-for-purpose data, approaches, and solutions. And also, hopefully, leverage strong partnerships between academia, industry, and obviously also the government. And we hope to be able to enhance learning, health, well-being, social inclusion, etc., and make our world a better place. So thank you very much.
Since we have ample time for questions, I'd like to invite the audience
what are the open research issues in the field of voice conversion, basically? Like I vaguely remember prosody is one such issue, but other issues that you feel are very important in voice conversion.
Yeah, I think in voice conversion, the most important thing is to be able to convert from any speaker to any speaker. And apparently, with our existing techniques, if you want to do that, we rely a lot on the data, but the data of this exact matching context is not easily available when we actually want to target specific situations. So what we want to do, the open question, what we should do as a community is to be able to devise approaches that can generalize better. And I think PPG offers a glimpse of that because it actually comes out with a speaker normalized space, and therefore it's also, it can easily cross languages and cross gender. And I think that's one of the directions for voice conversion.
And how about the prosody?
Yeah, definitely the prosody. So far we haven't done too much on prosody, and most definitely prosody. Yeah, that's a very good
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a number of colleagues, Chinese speaking. I would like them to improve their pronunciation in English. So what would you recommend that I do, or outcome that they do today? What is available?
Well, please visit SpeechX booth. Well, actually, we have a booth, the startup, SpeechX. So I think most importantly is immersive, constant practice and being able to build a system that provides appropriate feedback and help them learn. And I think being able to assess, help the learner identify, the problematic segments and how to help them visualize how to improve and where they're, the trajectory of learning or practicing that they're moving. I think being able to continuously track that will be very important, aside from just plain diligence. I mean, I think that's very important where the technology can offer, whereas the human teacher can get tired. I mean, I think the technology today cannot match a good human teacher, but the technology never gets tired. It's 24/7. So I think constant practice and being able to develop technologies that can track the learner's progress very closely and be able to offer useful feedback. That's the key. Thank you, John.
Would like to know, when a dysarthric person is speaking, they normally produce a single word. It could be faster or shorter than a regular speaker. How can we be sure that the boundaries of a certain phoneme are correctly compared. Because you were comparing a correctly pronounced phoneme with a non-correctly pronounced phoneme. But when you are talking about a dysarthric person, they can produce the same word but taking, let's say, 20 or 30% of the time longer than a regular person. So to detect those boundaries can be difficult.
Yes, that's a very good point. In fact, we don't have a good handle on that if you look at our ICAST paper, and we need to improve upon that. Thank you.
Yeah, how do you differentiate?
Okay, thank you. So detection is just to say it's a binary decision. Yes, is it correct, or no, it's not correct. And diagnosis is where we want to say, if it's considered a mispronunciation, what has the learner produced? And how does it differ from the canonical? So that will be the distinction. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's actually an important...
also raises some ethical questions about the limitation of use. So are you aware of a discussion in that direction, and what's your personal view?
I recently submitted. So in fact, as you know, I started working on voice conversion because we were motivated to personalize assistive technologies. However, we were approached by the Applied Science and Technology Research Institute and the Hong Kong government. They were asking us about how, to what extent our technologies can impersonate and being able to break into speaker verification systems. And so far in our initial study, we have found that if you look for impersonation by the human, let's say, I don't know who's a good impersonator, but for humans looking at a human impersonation, you feel that, oh, they're doing a very good job in impersonation. But that attack actually generally cannot penetrate speaker verification systems. Okay. However, because of the recent voice conversion techniques, we have found that even though a converted voice does not sound very close to the target speaker, to the human, some of it is actually able to penetrate speaker verification. So machine perception is very different from human perception. And so we need to work on anti-spoofing technologies. So on the one hand, we are working on the sword, and on the other hand, we're working on the shield. So that will be an interesting development in our lab on this. Thank you.
I have a question on speech which might enhance ASR systems, because your hyperarticulated speech has better class separability and all the targets are reached and so on. Do you see it as a possible potential pre-processing before ASR systems can probably take the speech signal?
Oh, yeah, thank you. I think we don't have. Our objective so far is perhaps much less demanding, because my objective is really to catch the attention of the learner to highlighted segments that contain mispronunciation. Of course, if we want to do a very good job in hyperarticulated speech, we actually need to know the detailed dynamics of the articulators, especially if you're talking about relevant hyperarticulation for automatic speech recognition. I think that's a much higher requirement in the application that you are presenting than currently. I guess we have lower goals right now, because our goal is perhaps to catch the attention of the learner, and more so. Yeah. Thank you.
I was wondering if some phonemes are not present in L2 speaker. It is very easy to learn from it because, for example, consonants, it has very distinct kind of articulatory features, but what about the vowels? So I feel like the vowels are not exactly same if it sounds similar. So, I mean, there are some kind of tongue position, and then the L2 and L1 speaker are totally different, even if it sounds similar. So how would you elaborate this kind of problem?
Yeah. Or, the L2 space compared to the L1 space is quite different. And if you think of, although English may be my target language, but Chinese accented English actually looks at English in this L2 space, where the categories, the phonetic categories, if you will, that are in L1 are pretty much all distorted to some extent. So relating to your question, there are distortions that are, or deviances that are bigger, there are deviances that are smaller. And so we call those, in our lab, I have a student working on it, we call those non-categorical errors. Like you can have a segment, I can't tell whether it's this phone or that phone. I can't even label it. I mean, a common example may be V and W for Cantonese speakers, or R and L. Like you can hear a sound and you can't say, well, this is R. If you ask, if we try to ask several linguistics majors and they will all give us different, if you force them to make a decision, it almost becomes random. So we call those non-categorical units, and we need to be able to identify those so that we can better model the L2 space, and then that will help us to pinpoint any deviations and hopefully position us better in corrective feedback generation. Yeah, thank you for the question.
I was quite impressed with your tools. For wondering is if there's a lot of effort, if this effort can also be used to get us non-Chinese tools to learn.
It is a lot of effort to do it one way, you know, Chinese learners of English, and I'm sure for learners of Chinese, a lot of the knowledge and the experiences that we have gained through our research will be applicable, but we have to turn it all around. Yeah. I mean, for example, you know, our target for English, the English phonetic system will now have to be shifted to the Chinese syllabic system. But I think a lot of what we have learned is generalizable, but it will require engineering work. Thank you.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
To enhance not only the speech, but also the text.
Yes. Yeah, so your question actually touches upon pedagogically a most important aspect, which as a speech researcher we've been so far focusing largely on the technology. But pedagogy, I mean, that goes back to my last slide. I think we have done a lot of work on the technological front, but we actually need to reach out and look into the translation to pedagogy. And I think the visualization and how to visualize, what techniques, what are the technologies that are needed for better visualization, going back to John's question, how can we very tightly track the progress of the learner as he or she improves? I think that's a very important direction to move, and we haven't done much in that area yet. Yeah. Thank you, Jihan.